Greetings, everyone. It's AJ, one half of your dynamic, over-caffeinated duo here at the Bellingham Podcast. And I know, I've missed you too. And so has Chris. But as we like to say on the show, life has occurred. And Chris and I have been, we're fine. We're good. We still like each other. You know, we still see each other occasionally. But time has not been on our side lately. A lot of things have been going on with work and life and family. And really, we just have not had enough time to have one, Hana Teriyaki, and two, podcast. And I am just as sad as you are. I miss being on the mic. I miss my gregarious podcast partner's baritone voice next to me. And I miss you. All of you who subscribe, listen to us, and support us all online, whether that's through the Substack of bellinghampodcast.substack.com, or you subscribe to us in your favorite podcast app of choice, whether that's on iTunes or good old iHeartRadio or Spotify. Thank you all again so much for supporting us. Or you might also support us by tuning in on Saturdays on that terrestrial radio that you may have kicking around the house on Camry 102.3 FM, Bellingham's own community homegrown radio. That Wi-Fi waves need not apply. Or you could check them out actually online at camry.org. Now that I've done all of those shameless plugs, I have a special episode for you. Jumping back in a series that Chris Powell himself started, which was the Community Conversation Connected series. Too much of a mouthful. I'm going to shorten it. Here's a new episode for the Contact series, because really all of these interviews come out of contact that Chris and I have with people here in our community that are doing interesting things or supporting interesting causes. Now, how did I come about this cause? So one day, I was walking home from work, and I hopped on, for some random reason, onto the Twitter. Yes, the Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter in a while, but I needed to look up something, and when there was this local project that showed up on my feed, something called the Boundary Swirl project. And it was in crypto Twitter, which is kind of the sub-community on Twitter of enthusiasts that are into cryptography and blockchain and stuff that Chris and I have mentioned here on the show before. But here was something that was kind of NFT-ish, but also had a physical representation of art. And the artist was somebody that I had met in the past, and he is here in Bellingham, Washington. So I did what any other person would do. I at him and wanted to see what this project was about. And I went through the process of using a seed and generating a piece of art that is created by an algorithm, but created by this technologist and artist. And in doing so, it was selected and was actually made into the real world. He actually put it up on a laser cutter. He then stained it and put it together and compiled it and is hanging it in a gallery known as the Boundary Bay. Ah, yes, save the ales, indeed. And in there, what he decided to do is to use his tech ship and artisanal ship and to bridge it in our community here in Bellingham and then showcase it in a place that we all know, love, and many of us frequent. So with that said, let's dive into the artist. The project known as the Boundary Swirls, a little bit of blockchain, but not much that's going to make your eyes spin if you're not tech savvy. And really, how art has changed in the digital age and where it might be going. And in the case of today's guest, there's even an avenue for you, dear listener, to participate and experience this new kind of art, generative art, where there is a digital component, but in the case of Shawn, it also can lead to a physical art component here in the real world. More on that opportunity later in the episode. It's my pleasure to introduce
Shawn Kemp. We are in my studio workshop / garage, and I am 47 years old, I think.
You think?
Pretty sure.
What are you drinking?
It's my second Spindrift.
Oh, Spindrift, man, that's some good stuff. Well, Shawn, welcome to the show, and thanks for inviting me to your shop. Is this your studio, your shack, your shop? What is this?
It is my garage.
Oh, okay, my mistake. Your garage, but it's not any garage.
But I have kicked out a car, and it now has a laser and all my art supplies.
So let's rewind a little bit. So how do you describe yourself? What are you? Are you an artist? Are you a tech entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an environmentalist? What are you?
I'm a problem solver.
Yes.
It's actually funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were actually having this conversation about, am I an artist?
Okay.
And I actually had to think through that. Like, am I a designer? Am I an artist? Am I a creator? Am I a maker? And I think where I am right now, with where I spend most of my time, I would probably define myself as an artist, or other people would define me as an artist. Most of the time I spend is on things that are put on the wall and people would appreciate as art. So I think I'm entering a phase where I am now an artist.
Oh, you're entering a phase. Well, what phase were you in before you were an artist?
Before I was an artist, my last one, I would have considered myself an entrepreneur. So I started and ran a tech company.
So coming into this new phase of artisanalness, your medium is quite interesting. Why don't you go ahead and describe a little bit about what we'll get to the project that how I found out what you were doing, bro. But tell me the medium that you do and why this kicked out garage does not have a car and it has laser beams instead.
Yes, exactly. So I'll actually kind of tell you a little bit of a story about how it got. So this is about a 4-year journey in this particular one. About 4 years ago, I saw on Kickstarter a guy. So I've always been interested in art. I have an industrial design degree, and I took a lot of painting and drawing, and I've always kind of painted and drawn, whatever the word is.
Drone.
I think drones fly, but so I've always had that artistic aspect. But 4 years ago, saw this guy named Gabriel Sharma on Kickstarter raising money to buy a laser to cut wood for the medium that I'm doing right now, which is basically layers of wood that are cut with a laser and then assembled. So you get this essentially a relief image from that, and then you put stain and colors and everything onto it. So it's thin sheets of wood cut with a laser, and then those stack and create a 3-dimensional sculpture.
Yeah, and these are they range in size. So in front of me, I've got I'm guessing a 7x7.
It's like a 6x6
6x6
maybe on that one.
Yep, and they're all different kind of geometric style, concentric or disconcentric circles, and this tiny world cityscape type of thing. And wavy, how do you describe your said art other than I just call them wavy dudes? I don't know,
it's
squiggles.
It's changed. Okay. So 4 years ago when I started doing it, it was a little bit more organic. So I had butterflies and hops, the hops that they make beer out of. I had one of those. I had different kind of more organic shapes that you would see naturally. But I've always liked abstract, geometric types of shapes. And so I've evolved more and more toward that type of thing. So triangles or these swirls, things that don't have a grounding and necessarily a reality. You wouldn't look at it and go, ooh, that's a tree. But it actually has something that you might look at and say, ooh, that looks like a cityscape, sort of, in those types of things. So that's where I am now. It's more geometric. And then so I started with it as just drawing it by hand, putting it into the computer. Well, by hand meaning like a mouse.
I knew what you meant.
On a computer.
Well, that is by hand, right?
By hand, yes.
By Bluetooth.
Yes, definitely. But I drew it.
Yes.
The shape was drawn by me, and it was there, and then I would take that and put that on the laser and cut the thing out of it. And then over the last couple of years, I've moved more and more toward having the computer generate the shapes for me. And so over the last year, I've really delved into what's called generative art. So where I write a computer program, and that generates the shapes. I don't actually draw any of the shapes anymore. They're drawn by the script that I write, which then outputs them, and then I can cut that on the laser.
Which kind of gets into how I found out about your most recent project, Boundary Swirls. So tell me a little bit about Boundary Swirls, and I guess you're partnering with Boundary Bay to gallery show these, or tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So actually, Janet Leitner, who runs Boundary Bay Brewery here in Bellingham, asked if I would show my artwork down there, and I was like, yes, because we're opening back up and people are going in, and they have kept everyone fed and full throughout the entire.
They saved the ales during the pandemic.
They truly saved the ales, and it was hard. It was hard for their staff. Anybody who works in that industry, absolutely brutal. So I was excited. I was like, yes, I'll bring my art down. So I have a number of pieces that I brought down. I donated all that art. So any art
cool.
that's bought at Boundary Bay, as long as it shows up, it's been up for 2 months now. We'll probably keep it up for probably another month. All of that. So anybody who buys one of those pieces, all that money actually goes to a scholarship fund for their employees.
Oh, right on.
100%. Like I don't get any of the money.
Right on.
It all goes to the scholarship fund. But as part of that, I've been playing a lot with NFT-based generative art, and I wanted to do something local that touched on it, but maybe wasn't quite all the way there in the NFT space.
Sure.
And so I did a little project called Boundary Swirl, where I allowed people to scan a QR code, generate a new version of this boundary swirl, this swirly piece, and then share it. And if they shared it, I would make the pieces, and we'd create this mural. So it's a 6x6 mural, so 36 pieces total. And as people scanned the QR code, created their unique creation, I would then make it and put it up on the wall. So I've been as people have been sharing stuff. So there's one sitting in front of us here. That's one that somebody made and shared, and I have to go take it down and hang it up on the wall.
Dude, that's great. Which yours truly, mine was on the wall, like one of the earlier pieces. And that's how I found out, like, oh, Shawn's monitoring his Twitter. Like, this is a thing. Well, because like, a lot of NFT stuff gets started and doesn't go anywhere. And you're like, no, it's down at Boundary. And I checked it out. And literally I was stoked because I ran the seed. I got, the one that I got, and I was like, this is great. I shared it out. Hell, I even tweeted you out at Kevin Rose because he has the Proof Collective and he's all about NFTs and degen and stuff. And I was just like, I don't have any connection with Kevin Rose, but Kevin, if you ever want to be on the show, like, dude, like this is really cool where you're taking blockchain technology and you're showing proof of work and doing this notion of a digital representation of a physical thing, but both of them are originals because, like you just said, you didn't create it. You created the script, but the person interacted to create a piece of art that you, from your brain, transmogrified into ones and zeros.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got that right.
Yeah.
Must be a tech.
Yeah. So, and I've since taken that piece of, that's at Boundary Bay Brewery is not on the blockchain. That one's just kind of it's more just on a web server that you can hit. I then took that, and I do have an NFT version of it that lives on the Tezos, an environmentally friendly blockchain. And that one, there are 256 NFTs that sold out in 20 minutes.
Congratulations.
That people have, and those have been going. I've been sending those all over the world.
That's great. Yeah, that's cool. So getting back to the swirls though, did you build a platform? Because when I hit your server, like you could also sign up for an account and take your MetaMask, hook it up, and all that jazz. So like, are you using that platform to help other people launch their own type of like degen stuff, or like what?
Not currently. It's more like
sorry, I dug into it.
No, it's more like my own little playground.
Okay.
So as I've been doing the work that I've been doing around this stuff, there's been a couple of kind of here's the problem solving aspect of things that I had as an artist. Yeah. One was keeping track of the additions of my physical pieces. So I have Cascade Hops is one of my pieces, or Hive Mind is one of my pieces, and then I make new versions of it because I can reproduce them because it's on the laser cutter. And then those get signed, editioned, and I send them off. Yeah. Well, I like to keep track of what edition number I'm on, so I don't end up with 10 people with edition 5, which is a very real thing in my world.
I understand.
Or be able to know, like, when somebody sells it, can they authenticate it and say that this is actually a real piece,
right?
Of that type of thing. So I built a website that would let me do that, and then I've since been kind of adding things to it. One of them was the ability to actually run a generative minting. So actually create and mint stuff on the blockchain. And I did that for a little while. I did this one, which was just a script not tied to the blockchain, but that you could mint. And I mean, like if I look at the back end, there's over 1,000 pieces that have been created and stored just on my web server.
Yeah, so about 30 of them are me. Sorry.
Yeah, actually,
it's really cool.
There's a lot of people that have done it, but there's a lot of people that have done a lot. Like it's interesting to watch. Some people will do one, other people like one of the staff down there was like they said they're just constantly trying to find the right piece that they want to do. So it's kind of this process of hitting it, seeing what you get, and then trying it again. Like when am I going to get the one that I really want?
It's kind of like a really good slot machine but every time you're a winner, because like you get something new. Like there's a couple of them where when I was going through, I was like, oh, that one's cool, but like it wasn't the one. But ooh, I'll email that one to myself because I like that one. Like, but it's not as much as like I'm going to tweet it. Like that's what was really cool, and it kind of drew me into your project is not just the blockchain stuff, but the fact that as an artist, you were solving for X. Because I feel you. I also do when I sign my photography. I'm just like, oh, which am I on? Am I on 55? Which one am I on? Oh shoot! Like, and that is a real problem because most of the time when you're doing this, or you have somebody who's patroning you, like you're like, okay, you want to get this out the door, you sign it, you authenticate it and stuff. But then what? Like, what if that person, sells it on the secondary market, which on NFTs is a big deal? Or are you planning with your other pieces? Is there a secondary market for your pieces, and what's that looking like?
Yeah. So I've gotten a lot more serious about the NFT side of things.
Okay.
So I released a piece called Circle City. There's a generative art platform called FX Hash. There's another one called Art Blocks, which is on Ethereum. That's the big blue chip, $100,000+ pieces on that one. This one is very similar. It works almost identically, uses Tezos instead of Ethereum.
Nice.
And the pieces it's more of a playground it's like the newer generative artists. So most of the pieces there are usually like 1 to 3 Tez.
Yeah.
A Tez is worth about $3. So
At the time of this recording, yeah.
Yeah, $3 to $9 at the time of this recording. Hopefully, hopefully it won't go up too much because it's nice to actually have it be accessible. So instead of having to spend $500 to mint something on Art Blocks, you can spend $3 to have that same exact experience and great artists that are on this particular one. So I've started doing stuff there. So I've got this. The first piece I did was called Circle City, which is that spiky one that we have sitting right in front of us, and I released that one on that particular chain. And it was unique in the fact that most of the stuff that's being generated are all just digital. So they're just straight up, you can look at it on a computer or you could print it out. Right. But there's also people that are doing plotter-based stuff. So kind of there was a group that was pushing the edge of that around generatives that you can then plot on these really nice plotters. There's somewhere around here I have a plot of a piece that I can show you later. Okay. But these plot ones are kind of the next evolution of digital to something that's physical.
Yeah.
And so when I released this, a lot of the plotter community kind of rallied around it. Was like, this is so cool because it harkens to that same idea of plotting.
Right.
I'm plotting with a giant, powerful laser on wood.
Very nice one, by the way.
Very nice laser. But it's very similar. It's almost identical to my plotter that holds my pen in my other studio. And so when I released this, that was kind of the community that rallied around it, started sharing it. And the idea behind it was you come in, you mint an NFT. The script I have actually generates a file, a vector file that's layered. So there's 12 layers to this. It actually generates all the layers individually.
That's what I was wondering.
Generates the digital image. So you can see, ooh, that's what I got. There's my colors. This is what it looks like. This is how many circles and spikes I've got on my thing. I can download that output from that generative and run it straight on the laser.
Right.
So when somebody mints it, they get their NFT, the image that they can put on their phone or share on Twitter, the ability to download a file they can then take to their local makerspace and print their own circle.
And also make it to the right size for their space, right? Because like that's a 6x6, but if I want to have this like, full Shawn experience, right, of like 40 by 30, then I'd be able to do that.
You can do it. Yeah, you can do anything you want with it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I've taken those, and I've made kind of a limited edition signed pieces off of those.
Sure. So
what I'm starting to do now, the next versions I drop will probably all follow a similar format, which will be I'll take a certain number of the rarest. So as it comes out, there's rarity aspects to it. So some are more rare than others in terms of the variables. So number of colors, like in this Circle City one, number of circles that are there. Is it one circle or is it 6 circles? And so there's these things that give it rarity. And so what I did with the second piece was actually have rarity be the determining factor for me creating a free piece. So for the 10 rare of the 256 Boundary Swirls that I minted and dropped, I took the 10 rarest and I made and gave away the physical pieces for the 10 rarest because they were the rarest. So not only did you have this experience of like pulling a little slot machine or and getting your generative piece, but if you were one of the 10 that were the rarest, you got the physical one sent to you.
Whoa.
For free.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so those went all over the world. So I'm currently in the I've almost sent them all, but
Yeah.
they've gone all over the world from, here in the United States all the way to Brazil and Macedonia and
Your badge are
France
worldwide.
yeah, it's all over the place.
Dude, that's insane. So how many are left until that piece is done?
Actually, quite a few. I've been surprised at how slow it's been.
Bellingham, come on. Tweet at Shawn. He's a good guy, all right? I hang out with him.
Yeah, so I haven't looked, I think there might be 12 on the wall right now. So there's probably about 24-ish left on that particular one. And currently I've just been, as people have been sharing the things, I make them.
Yeah.
And it kind of slowed down. So the last month, I think I've only made one in the last month. So there are spaces there. I'll probably stop that mural at the end of this month.
End of the month? Okay.
So whatever's not done will probably remain not done.
Well, that'll make those pieces that are already up there even more rare, right?
Yeah, and then people get to collect those pieces. So once it's
cool.
done, we'll dismantle that mural, so other artists can put stuff up
Yeah,
at Boundary
right.
Day. And then whoever's piece, every piece has the name of whoever shared it.
That's cool.
And they can come in and grab and claim the piece that's theirs.
That's super cool. So, I understand that you're doing a lot in doing the NFT side, but what's the next big physical thing that you're going to do? Like, is it going to be more of this, or do you have something else where you're like, because I mean, as artists, like you kind of get like, oh, I've done this, I need my next album to be like punk. It can't be rock. Okay. So if you're going to go punk, what's going to be your next, what's up your sleeve?
Yeah. So I've got a whole bunch of things in process.
Okay.
They're all generative.
Okay.
I'm going larger. So the ones that I've done so far have been these 8x8 sized ones. So smaller. One, they're easier to ship.
Right.
Two, they take less time to cut. So I can scale it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
The next set will be 15 by 23 inch.
Whoa,
sized.
way bigger.
So way bigger. Like, I mean, these are like, these ones you could put on your wall as like a little, little piece. Some people actually there's a couple people that have bought. So once they have the NFT, I've also been allowing people to purchase a physical for the ones that they own.
Oh, cool.
So they can come on. I've added this to my website. They can come on, prove that they own it.
What's that website again?
It's the website's AllEditions.art. And they can come in, they can prove that they own the NFT, and then they can buy using Tezos the physical one, which then I'll make for them and sign it and send it to them. So some people have made 4. Like there's one person who made 4. They went off to somebody in Australia. So they've got 4 that are on their wall with those things. So a 15 by 23 is essentially what is that, for 6, I guess, would be the size of it. So I've got a couple of new ones that are coming on that one. One will be a larger version of the Circle City. So it's a 15 by 23 inch, more elaborate version of that Circle City one, which is kind of inspired by, for me, it was inspired by the movie Inception.
Oh, got it.
And the book Ringworld by Larry Niven.
Yep.
So it's the idea of this circle with cityscapes kind of in, but also twisting and morphing across space and time.
Dude, that's cool.
That's what that is. But I've got another one that's coming out. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's much more organic. It's swirly and almost looks like crop circles meets an alien language kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I think I get what the vibe you're going for.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep. And then I've got some organic ones that are playing with almost like staring into a mirror with rotating shapes that are around that. That one's a little further out.
Cool.
I'm working on. So, but I'll probably be. I've got about every other week will probably be the schedule that I'll drop some of these larger ones. And then I'll scale up. I've got some plans for a 23 by 23 inch one and then a 23 by 32 inch larger one.
Whoa.
They're harder to do because with wood, so everything I'm doing, it has to be cut. Mm-hmm. And they're all contiguous. Uh-huh. So it has to be structurally sound.
Right.
So the larger I go, the harder it is to make sure that random shapes are structured.
And also, do you have to worry about warping? Because I mean, like sheets apply, because you're only using what, 1/8 inch?
Yeah, 1/8 inch.
So I mean, when you put it into your cutter, it's going to have a little bit of a sag, right? Does that harm the way that the print comes out?
A little bit, not on cutting, because
Okay.
at cutting I use magnets to hold everything down.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
can actually control the surface. But the technique I use is a little different than other laser cut. So most people glue their stuff together. I've developed a technique where I don't glue anything. I actually hardly ever use glue. So most of these pieces are
Screwed?
they're screwed. They're Chicago screws that hold it
Oh,
together. But every layer is one piece. Like it's one.
got it.
It's basically a mesh
Yeah.
that holds it all together.
I didn't realize that. That's cool. So that's why each of the corners have the holes in the center.
Little
Okay.
holes in the center. Yeah.
So
I also frame. I mean, I also can do them as a frame, and I have
Right.
a compression frame technique that I use where I custom make the frames, and then the pieces all sit in, and they get compressed into the frame with with some tacks that kind of hold them all together.
super cool. Okay, so riddle me this. So with all of with generative art and with the blockchain and everything, what do you think is going to be? Because I have to say, like, this is a very Bellingham Northwest take on a very high tech, highly speculative, highly misunderstood sphere. Where do you see real people getting into blockchain and or art? Do you have any hot takes on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple things on blockchain and Web3 or crypto or whatever, whichever term you
Whatever,
want to use
the term du
to
jour.
call it. Yeah. One, it's the overnight success that only took 10 years to get there. So it's been around for a while. It's been evolving.
Yeah.
We saw a huge rise in the last year, in particular in this art NFT, non-fungible token space. Which that one almost came overnight.
It did.
Even though the premise of it was
Been
from a
around.
long time ago.
Yeah.
It just kind of emerged in a multi-billion-dollar industry within a very, very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing NFTs sell for millions of dollars.
Yeah, Bored Apes and yeah.
Yeah, I think I just saw a CryptoPunk today that just sold for $3 million or something.
Yeah.
CryptoPunk is an
Yeah,
NFT that's
Yeah, the arguably the OG. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I actually think those are the outliers. Yeah. So I think there was a lot of speculation with any new technology. You tend to see lots of speculation. You tend to see
FOMO.
lots of grifters and FOMO and all this stuff that kind of comes about from those things. I think the longer term and the more interesting thing for just kind of everyone is actually the ability to have this proof of ownership. So the ability to buy something, to transact pretty seamlessly around that particular thing, to then have that registered on a verifiable blockchain, which, like, for my art is. So if you buy a piece and it's $3 or 1 Tez, you now have that. It's in your digital wallet, and you could transfer it to somebody else and prove it. They would know, just like kind of like with eBay, how eBay transformed that stuff. It allows that kind of thing to happen. So I think we'll see it more with newer forms of kind of lower priced art that are coming out. So the ability to actually have photographs that are not $500, but lower. So I think I think you're going to start seeing that, but it's going to be a little while because right now it's hard. The technology to get a wallet, to set it up, to even get cryptocurrency to then buy it. It's a little hard. I mean, it's as hard as setting up a brokerage account and buying stocks, which is not hard, but it's not.
It takes
easy.
effort.
Yes,
Takes effort.
Takes effort. So I think we'll see the adoption kind of scale out, but it's going to be slower now. I mean, even in the crypto space, it's huge, but there's in the big one like the Ethereum one, there's probably only about 400,000 wallets with NFTs in them,
Right.
which is not a lot. We're talking a global phenomenon with, what are we at, like 8 billion people now in the world, and there's only 400,000 wallets.
But also with Ethereum, like, you've got gas fees that are through the roof. So like when you buy something or if you mint something, it costs, depending on what the gas rate is, it could cost anywhere from a couple dollars. I haven't seen that in years, but it's a couple $100 just to make your squiggle.
Right.
So like it makes Ethereum, it prices out artists and that whole accessibility part. Whereas Tezos, and also there's the whole environmental impact of any blockchain. But with Tezos, like the floor for transaction is way lower than you'd have to do on something like Ethereum.
Significantly lower.
Yeah.
Like today, the gas fee to mint something like an NFT on Ethereum, I think I saw it at like about $50 equivalent, US dollars. The Tezos fee I just minted a couple today, was a penny.
Yeah.
Less than a penny, like a fraction of a
Fractional
penny.
cent. Yeah.
Fractional cent. So that orders of magnitude difference, which means you can have something that's $1 as opposed to if you're going to spend $30 on gas fees, you're not going to buy something for $1 with a $30 fee on top of it.
I guess this will be my last question to wrap this up. Because you're in a unique situation as an artist that you're making digital and verifiable digital and arguably a verifiable physical, on the secondary market, are you afraid or do you encourage people to like separate the two? Like, do you have people who just, get the NFT so they can have you sign one and then like they sell the NFT so that somebody else can get access to do the same thing? Like, can you?
Yeah. And actually you did ask about the secondary and I didn't actually answer the question around secondary. So that Circle City piece, I sold the original mints at 3 TES each.
Okay.
There is a secondary market. The floor, so the lowest price you can buy one of those on the secondary market right now, I think is 20 TES.
Whoa.
I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but it was that there's a couple on there that are like 90 TES. So there's definitely a secondary market, and people have bought secondaries to get physical pieces. Like they have gone out, picked out one they wanted, bought it for 15 or 20 TES, and then contacted me and said, okay, I've got one now.
Verify it. You sign. Yeah. So when you do that second signature, is it a different edition? Like, how do you number it? Like, how does that work as an artist?
I haven't done so. I got to figure this one out.
I know.
So I haven't actually done.
Curious.
I haven't done a second physical
Okay.
for a piece yet. I've only done the original edition one of each of the different pieces. I will probably edition them. And I'm trying to, there's a couple aspects to that. One, and I'm asking the community. I mean, for me, this is about what does the community want? Like, what do the collectors, what do the people who appreciate this want? And I actually ran a poll.
I know, I participated in that poll before this recording. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, should there be a limit? Like, if you own the digital thing, should there be a limit on how many physicals it can make? Right. My kind of personal preference is no, there shouldn't be a limit. Like the digital, whoever owns the digital should be able to decide, I'm going to hold it. There can only ever be one. So there's only one because I'm now holding it. As long as I control the ownership, the deed, there will only be one. Or I own it. And you know what? I'm going to mass produce the hell out of this thing and I'm going to sell it at Walmart. Right. That's up to them. That's the person who owns that.
Right. Because when they own the NFT, like do you also allow them to own the rights to it, or how does that work as well?
That's the giant mystery of the NFT space right now, and ambiguity. So the platform I mint on and the stuff that I have, there are no contracts that say anyone owns it. So who knows? Right. In my mind, if you mint a piece and you hold the NFT, the ability to reproduce it is yours because you own that output of that particular thing. I would appreciate it if I was credited as the original artist of the thing, but they get to control the production of that particular thing. In the case of my pieces, but there's no contract. I mean, currently there's no, and that's one of the next things is how do I instantiate some kind of an ownership IP contract on top of it so that it is clear.
Or an IP Creative Common. Yeah. Because I mean, like if you're not opposed to them to like replicating it to their heart's content, but with attribution, like there's a mechanism of Creative Commons that would fit in.
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug before we wrap up this episode?
I would just say check out FX Hash.
Yeah.
If you're interested in art and especially the newer NFT, digital, blockchain, generative, FX Hash I sound like a salesperson for the platform, but it's a game changer. It really is pushing the edge of allowing anyone to experiment as a generative artist in the Web3 universe. And that is pretty cool. And you can buy $30 in TES with your credit card really easily, which would let you mint 10 pieces on it when they reopen. They're currently closed for a couple weeks while they were upgrading, but they reopened this like in 4 days. But it would let you actually start participating in that universe.
Super cool.
So that's what I'll leave you with.
I love it.
Go to FX Hash and check out Generative Art because It's really cool.
And also check out your site, All Editions.
Sure. Yeah. Check out AllEditions.art.
.art. Yes. Cool. Shawn, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That wraps up this contact edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Remember, if you want to check out the Boundary Swirls project, go down to Boundary Bay and take a look at the wall inside the restaurant, and you'll see these squares that are up on the wall. And you can scan the QR code to have a chance of generating one and tweeting it out and maybe getting it actually produced in the real world. If you want to check out Shawn's website, be sure you check out AllEditions.art, and there you'll be able to check out the Boundary Swirl project, as well as his other one-off pieces that he creates that are individually editioned. Well, this was fun. I miss being on the mic, and so does Chris. And if you miss Chris as much as I do, and that sweet baritone voice, remember, he does have a solo act. It's called the Canvas Insider Podcast. Remember, if you're in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on Camry 102.3 FM or community-powered and community streaming at camry.org. And if you just can't get enough of me because you miss my not-so-baritone voice, remember, I also have a solo show called The Analog Explorer, and there is a brand new episode up there. Episode AE10 is an interview with Dan at timely_moments out of the UK, where we talk about the Swatch Omega launch. Be sure you check out analogexplorer.substack.com. On that note, from the city by the Salish Sea, happy Easter, everyone. I'm AJ Barce, and Chris and I will get back on the mics as soon as life stops occurring.